broadcast partners Harvey Norman, Bank of New Zealand, Heineken and Telecom proudly present Rugby World Cup 2007.
Another black day for the men who were prevented from wearing black. Is Graham Henry about to fall on his sword? And will Fiji now be the pride of the South Pacific? Hi everyone, I'm Dobbo, bonjour. Always look on the bright side of life.
Right, we're leaving.
What can you say other than ah? Another 4 more years, boys. Sydney.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Yeah, another 4 years. But yeah, absolutely just woke up this morning. As soon as the end of the whistle, I just jumped straight into bed, and I just couldn't get to sleep, and I just kept playing the game in my mind. But when I woke up in the morning,
still there. Still a nightmare.
Yeah.
You're kind of hoping that you'll wake up and it was a bit of a bad dream.
Well, it hasn't been for the French, because we've been in Paris since the whole tournament started, and most of the Parisians, well, they thought that Les Bleus had played their last game in the capital. So when they won in Cardiff, they just went off like a cracker as if they'd won the tournament. Yes, it was madness at midnight. Car and bus horns were honking continuously. People were running across streets with reckless abandon. The Eiffel Tower was lit up like a Christmas tree. It was like a millennium party. And Frank Zinni, what's it going to be like if the French beat the Poms next week?
I think that's actually the big challenge for the French, because they can't really put together, well, they haven't in the past, put together 2 big games, you know, and hopefully for the French, they haven't played their final last night and beating us, but it's going to be great. You know, they've got wonderful support. They come back home now. The French public have just really gotten in behind this team of theirs, and to be honest, most of them were thinking that was it for them last night.
well, certainly after the on that first game, I think a lot of people would have actually given their tickets away after loss against Argentina. But I actually have it on a very good source that the French guys, about 8 or 9 of the guys, actually booked their holidays actually for next week.
Unbelievable. All right, well, coming up shortly, we'll analyse, scrutinise and chastise what went wrong. But first, a reminder, the big show must go on. And while the All Blacks have proved to be the side show, all roads still lead to Paris. Yes, the third quarterfinals between South Africa and Fiji. It kicks off at 2 a.m. Yes, Fiji are now the hope of the South Pacific at odds of 100 to 1. They were 600 to 1, while the fourth quarterfinals between Argentina and Scotland. No kick-off tomorrow morning's at 8 a.m. Well, at 4 a.m. tomorrow morning, straight after the Fiji game, the All Blacks are holding a major media conference with Graham Henry, like John Hart before him back in 1999, expected to fall on his sword. And the man who tried to get everybody to buy into the concept of rotation to allow for recovery and reconditioning, well, he was a forlorn figure as he faced the world's media straight after the game.
The longest walk of Graham Henry's career, and probably his last as All Black coach.
I don't think it's a matter of time about when you think about your future. I'm pretty comfortable at 61, thank you. I don't think that I have to worry about that too much, so but I'm not thinking about it at the moment.
Everything Henry did for the last 4 years was aimed at winning this World Cup. The rotation policy, the reconditioning program, all for nothing.
I think they were the right strategies coming into this World Cup. Everybody agreed they were the right strategies in the group, and we worked extremely hard on those strategies, and they've been successful in test match record over a long period of time.
Captain Richie McCaw looked close to tears as he tried to explain what went wrong.
We got beaten by a better team. You know, the pain in the eyes and the body language sums it up. You know, there's some guys probably played their last test for the All Blacks. That hurt as well. You know, there's some pretty shattered guys, as you'd expect, and you know, I guess just the losses to why we didn't perhaps put our game together as we'd have liked.
A quarter-final exit is hard to fathom for the fans. It's even more difficult for the players.
I think too, what the people outside of the team need to understand is that the disappointment that they feel, and they'll all be gutted, because they really, really want this team to have won the World Cup. If they could just pause when they're feeling gutted and think and understand that the people that are in that shed back there are feeling about 10,000 times worse.
Graham Henry was as philosophical as ever about the All Blacks' earliest exit from a World Cup.
Obviously disappointed, but realistic. Understand that the better side won on the day, and a lot of credit goes to them. And we'll get on.
4 more years. It's a very long time.
Well, gentlemen, Graham Henry, I think he's going to call it quits overnight, next few hours. Who's going to be his successor?
Well, I don't really know. There's a couple of guys there who are flanked there by Graham Henry, although Wayne Smith and that. But you know, I think we've got to put things in perspective at the moment. That you know, obviously the guys are feeling quite upset about the whole thing, and you know, for the last 3 or 4 years, I've believed in the whole campaign of what they've actually been trying to do. It was very uncharacteristic. It's a whole rotation of like 2 squads. And for some reason, I just don't know whether it was the lead-ups. They didn't actually click themselves together in the pull round, so there was a possibility there was going to be a chance that it came unstuck. And unfortunately, like the All Blacks just came unstuck there last night, and they just didn't click for the first 35 minutes. They were actually all right, and then for the rest of it, they just disappeared. And it just comes a time when it just stops.
Frank Bunce, the key moment, obviously the yellow card of McAllister. Do you believe it was warranted?
No, I don't actually. A penalty may be. Obviously that he did do something that warranted a penalty, but not a yellow card. You know, that exactly was the key moment, and they went on and, you know, it lifted. I think they scored that try during that time.
Well, let's have a look at now. I mean, he's not even looking at the man, is he? When the incident happened.
You could say that he did impede him. He ran into him. You know, maybe took a couple of steps that he shouldn't have taken, but it was pretty much nothing. You know, really.
But it's not a yellow card, though, is it?
No, it's not a yellow card offence. It's a penalty offence, and maybe a shot at goal, 3 points, fair enough. Okay, get on with it. But 10 minutes in the bin was harsh, and you know, it changed France, I think.
And also, I suppose we've got to question the forward pass and the second French try.
Yeah, that's
2 key moments in the game, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2 key moments, but you know, I don't think that's it comes down to poor defence from the All Blacks. It was a set piece, I think, with a scrum, and they actually had to go left. We've already got one. We've already got the halfback on that side there. So Leonard, you know, at the end of it, he actually had to make a flying ankle tap, but missed. But then actually, I can't remember who the centre was. The French centre actually drew in 2 All Black defensive players, and that there, Michalak just went through and kept his composure, waited for the right decision, and then made a nice pass.
Exactly what he was wanted, you know, on the field for at that time, eh? Freddie Michalak, bring him on, do something special, just a little bit of something extra, and he was the guy to do it.
Right.
All right. Well, not well for Henry's boys. Not even making the semi-final sort of defies comprehension.
This was not the World Cup farewell the All Blacks had dreamt of. Surrounded by ecstatic French fans after a shock quarter-final loss in Cardiff.
The guys are gutted. We've been working for a long time, and it's not the outcome we wanted, and we're just gutted.
The All Blacks aren't making any excuses, blaming their own poor decision-making and high error rate.
We made a couple of, uncharacteristic mistakes. Well, they're not actually uncharacteristic because we've been making the whole tournament, forced passes and some knock-ons, and we've been talking about this whole tournament, and we've got to cut them out, and here we go in the big game today. That didn't happen. We still made it.
Anton Oliver admits he and his teammates let the French dictate the tempo of the test by kicking away too much ball.
We got trapped into playing aerial ping pong. Like, that's not what we wanted to play. We wanted to attack and use the ball. And I think some of the pressure and indeed some of the points that the French put on us were from our mistakes with defensive pressure.
The French game plan kept Le Bleu in the game until Luke McAllister's controversial sin binning gave them a one-man advantage, and they pounced.
The difference is they converted, they maximised their chances. We matched them, in the first half. We matched them pretty well, and then patches of the second half. The difference is they scored, and that's footy, and it's just one of those things that happens. Guys got nothing to be ashamed of. We come here to play. We try to play, but France has played a little bit better, and that's life.
France will be playing rugby next week in front of their adoring fans in Paris. The All Blacks are heading home to face a different type of music.
Well, now the All Blacks have been eliminated, and for the record, the TAB won big time on their defeat with little money placed on the French. The odds for the other nations, as you expect, have changed significantly. Yes, the Springboks are now the short price favourites to win the tournament at $1.80. France is second at $2.85. Who would have thought Argentina would be third at $9? England's at 10, Scotland 80, and Fiji $100 to go all the way. All right, still to come. First the Wallabies, then the All Blacks. So are there any more upsets in store? Yes, a Fiji capable of the unthinkable. Can they tip over the Springboks? Stay with
Looney, quick ball. Surely Fiji must score. Fiji really on the rampage. Dennisau there. Looked like a knock-on, but he's got another crack at it. Dennisau is alive. Does he get out? He does.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible try. It's a turnover.
That is it. It's all over. Wales are out of the World Cup. And this, one of the, if not one of the greatest ever shots in world rugby. It's as simple as that.
Welcome back. Yes, Fiji are now the hope of the South Pacific. Let's look at their road to the quarterfinals. And apart from dropping their bundle against the Aussies, Fiji's 3 pool victories against Japan, Canada and Wales were absolute thrillers. But with no Nicky Little to steer the ship, the TAB have basically given them no chance, with South Africa paying $1.01 for the win. Fiji $15. Well, they like the close calls, the Fijians, but with no Nicky Little, he's out, of course, with an injury, a knee injury. The man that will be filling his boots in the number 10 jersey is Saromai Bai. And Bunsey, this man, obviously, he's a utility back, and he's not a kid. He's been around for a long time. He's 32 years of age. Is he the right man to play at number 10 in this cutthroat game?
Yeah, I think he is. You know, they've gone for experience to replace experience, where you know, where it was lost with Nicky Little. But I think he's a little bit more comfortable further out in the back line. But you know, obviously he well, like all Fijians, he runs, he passes, he tackles, you know, and he makes a lot of ground. So Fiji are going to look to him to, you know, with his 32 years, bring it in, just steer them around the park, kick when they need to, you know, just drive them.
So, I mean, what chance have they got? I mean, they're going to have to play sevens, aren't they, to have any hope?
Well, they do. I think the important thing is for the Fijians, you know, they've pleased us in their pool rounds, and I think what they have to do is what they did against Wales is just adopt the same sort of style. You don't want to actually start going into the confrontation and start competing against the South Africans and the lineouts. You know, their style of rugby is just
that sort of stuff.
Yeah, they want that, and I just think the Fijians, they do have to approach it in a sevens style mentality. And you know, there are going to be sometimes when the unpredictability will happen, and the Fijians are classic at it.
Well, if ever South Africa had, dare I say it, a soft road to the final, this is it. They've breezed through their pool with the exception of Tonga, and they're expected to easily account for Fiji in the quarters and most likely Argentina in the semis. But as James Gilmore reports, given what's already happened to the Wallabies and the All Blacks, the Boks aren't counting their chickens before they hatch.
It's considered by many the easiest quarterfinal to pick, but for South Africa, knocked out at this stage of the tournament in 2003, nothing is being taken for granted against Fiji.
It's a massive privilege and honour to be able to play in a quarterfinal of a World Cup. It doesn't matter who you're playing or what you've done. Any team that's gotten themselves into a quarterfinal position has gotten one or two things right, and the privilege and I think the occasion is what you've got to show respect to.
For two of the Springboks' brightest young backs, there's no doubting the threat that Fiji pose and exactly what's required to shut them down.
I just think we must get them on the ground as soon as possible and not go for high tackles, take them around their ankles and take them to the ground, because they're really strong in their upper body and legs. So the sooner we get them to the ground, the more we can go for the ball.
We have to close them down quick as possible. Don't give them enough space, otherwise they will step you left and right and they're gone.
It's a sentiment that's shared by the coach, who seems to have learnt a little about the Fijian style of play from the men in black.
We all know what Fijians are like. I mean, you've got a couple playing in New Zealand as well, you know, and we know they're speedsters and they can step and they can, you know, really take you on one-on-one. So it's not just about using the forwards, also making sure you put them under pressure. You can't give them space.
So despite South Africa's overwhelming favouritism, it seems Fiji's performances at this World Cup have demanded their respect.
I think what's fresh in our memories is no one gave them the chance to play against Wales, and when Wales looked again, they were 25-3 down. So, you know, as much as we talk about what their strengths and weaknesses are and what ours are, the reality is it's a quarter-final. You've got to make sure you take your chances.
Well, the Boks have been remarkably relaxed. In fact, they've given us almost as much access as we ever want of any team, unlike the All Blacks and the Wallabies have been a bit of a close shop, and they're out of the tournament anyway. But Kiri, and we mentioned it before, set piece, line-out time in particular, the king of the line-outs in world rugby, Victor Matfield, he is the man that Fiji have really got to try and get some ball off a how. I mean, he is just a freak of nature. At 2 metres 01, he's a monster.
He is, and you know, that's what you expect him. He's a you know, I was actually talking to John Eales the other day, and you know, he was picking that Victor Matfield probably in the last couple of years is probably one of the best line-out, well, is the best line-out forward in the world, and you know, a lot of their play bases around him, and you know, they've got a good combination not only with Victor, exactly with Bucky's Botha, but you know, the stats with him here, you know, not only just as he line-outs, you know, he carries and
passes a lot too,
and you know, he's a very good, very athletic. So
yeah, he does everything. Like in the air, he's probably the best. You know, kickoffs, just receiving kicks, things like that, line out. But
yeah, look at these. It's a bit like Colomese. He's a modern-day Colomese, running with the ball in one hand.
Modern day, he runs and passes and tackles. He's involved in everything, and yeah, he's a huge guy to, you know, to have in your side. Especially the Springboks will just, you know, everything around Victor Matfield.
All right, still to come, we've got Scotland against Argentina. Yes, can the Pumas, the leper of Southern Hemisphere rugby, defy the Sanzar partners and go all the way to the final? John Kerwin thinks so. We'll see what Zinni and Frank have to say. Stay with us.
Change of tactic. Up comes Damasco. Scotland go for the touchline. The crowd and Scotland supporters cheer them to the echo. They have done it. They have done it. I'll make the narrative.
Welcome back. Well, the Scots can count themselves very lucky. They're in the playoffs. Yes, they were in a weak group. They were ranked behind Wales and Ireland, who've argued they were in a much harder pool. So here's the Scots' road to the top 8. Let's be honest, they looked very ordinary. They were thumped 40-zip by New Zealand. But the game that really mattered was their clash with Italy, which they won 18-16. Despite not scoring a try, it's fair to say the Scots were expecting to play France in the quarterfinals and not Argentina. And it's almost like they're here by accident in the quarterfinals, isn't it, the Scots?
Well, they are, but they're still in it, and they've still got it. Yeah, they're still here, and they were, you know, they've got an opportunity. Okay, in all the games leading up to the pool rounds, you know, it was the big call was when they actually made those 13 changes against the All Blacks, and I think Frank Hatton, the Scottish coach, made a decision, a conscious decision, just to make sure that what we want to try and do is get ourselves into the quarterfinal, because they had a big game against Italy in their last round, and just put them at the post. Now, they must be growing with confidence now. Obviously, they've got the right side of the draw. They've got to come against Argentina. So, you know, look, Argentina haven't come unstuck yet. They haven't come unstuck. You know, whereas all the top teams, they've lost their way, and you know, Argentina haven't had a bad game. And you know, don't write off the old Scotties. The old Scotties might front up and blow the candles out.
Well, speaking of the Pumas, they've emerged as the dark horse of this World Cup. Yes, John Kerwin believes they'll meet the Springboks in the final. Here's the Pumas' road to the quarters.
That is it. Argentina in a massive boil over to start the World Cup. It's been brewing for a long time, a great Argentinian victory. Make no mistake about that.
Oh, still could work well. Hernandez, for once thwarted. No, he's not. He's done it. Hernandez creates it, and Martin Aramburu scores it.
It's the reserve scrum half, Fernandez Miranda, who gets the ball out, and it's Leguizamon who's everywhere at the moment. Beautiful ball to Senelosa. Thinks about going himself. Brought down just short of the line. Miranda gets it out, just needs good hands here. It's Palazzo over in the corner.
Great take. Fantastic play. Here's the big tight end, drops Skelso up towards the 22. Fernandez Lobe. Now Machetti. Hands off, green 6. Pichot. Okay. Fernandez. Corletto. Longo. Agula in the corner. Try.
Yes, the Pumas win over the French in the Cup opener, had the tournament hosts in a huge flap, but that's history. Now, the key stat from the Pumas poll is that they only conceded 2 tries, both against Ireland, and that makes Argentina the best defensive team going into the quarterfinals. Well, Argentina, JK thinks he'll meet the box. They'll meet the box in the final. What do you think?
Oh, I think on the form book you'd actually, I'd say that's right. But you know, the Argentinians have, you know, they've laid down a marker in this World Cup right from the outset. You know, we thought they were going to come unstuck up against Ireland because we thought the Irish were going to step up to the plate because there were a lot of Irish people booked their tickets at the Millennium Stadium. But you know, they've hung in there and they look so composed, and the pressure, even with the pressure that Ireland chucked at them, they just repelled everything.
What I like about Argentina is the fact that they're still defined, you know, forwards and backs. Forwards do their work, they hit every ruck, they're really, really physical. You don't see their tight guys out in the back line running around with the ball, you know, and trying to make passes. Forwards do their work, backs do their work, you know, and it's almost rugby from 10 years ago, you know, and it's really effective.
Small correction, the box in the semis, but for the Pumas, I mean, this is their chance to say to the rugby world, to the Sansa, you can't leave us out of the Tri-Nations anymore.
No, it's absolutely fantastic, you know, and that's what they, you know, that's what they're doing. Laying a marker down here and making the rugby world, IRB need to stand up and say, right, we need to make sure that we look after Argentinians, not only Argentina, but all the, like Fiji, Tongans, Samoans, making sure that we galvanise this rugby world.
All right, well, tomorrow we'll analyse the All Black mess. Yes, Steve Hanson's the heir apparent to Graham Henry's throne. Also, we'll feature the charity game involving Frank Bunce and Andrew Mertens, which Buncey survived. A few chop around Monaco as well.
At least we won.
Yeah. At least Buncey Steve won.
Let's see the tackle. Got
some great rugby coming overnight, and who knows? Stranger things have happened. We could be seeing Fiji celebrating like the French.
And we hope so.
I'm Dobbo. Bonsoir for now.
With your feet on the air, your head on the ground. Try this trick and spin it. Yeah. Your head will collapse, but there's nothing in it, and you'll ask yourself, where is my mind?
Rugby World Cup 2007, proudly brought to you by Harvey Norman, Bank of New Zealand, Heineken and Telecom.